We do see a lot of customers already starting to shift their workloads over for webinars, and kind of there is a set of asks for them to fully shift their workloads over. So we are pretty excited about the momentum we're seeing here, and we're hoping to kind of close all the gaps so customers can fully use the full breadth of offering that Teams has.
Welcome back to the Teams Insider podcast. This week we talk about an area of Teams that doesn't get talked about as much as I think it should. Virtual events. So we're talking webinars, town hall, large events, NDI, really those multi-thousand user events as well. We talked to Preethi, who's head of product for virtual events at Teams. She goes into the details of the use cases for these type of events and some of the features, and also some of the thoughts about roadmap and AI as well. Many thanks to Preethi for making the time, and also thanks to Landis, who are the sponsor of this podcast. Really appreciate their support to the community. Hope you enjoy the show. Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast. Excited to have this one. We talk a lot on the pod around Teams Phone and meetings and kind of the core knowledge worker scenarios, but there's a much wider story with Microsoft Teams. And today we're going to talk about kind of large external virtual events. It's my pleasure to have Preethi on the pod. First time you've been on, Preethi. So thanks for coming on. And if you introduce yourself and give us a little bit about your role.
Thanks, Tom. It's great to be here. So I'm a group product manager in Microsoft Teams. I lead the Microsoft Teams events and external meeting space. So really glad to be here and excited to talk to the audience about the offering that Teams has in this space.
Awesome. So a lot of people in our community are going to know Teams core fairly well and the knowledge worker scenarios. But it feels like particularly in the last couple of years, there's been a lot more investment in beyond that. And maybe you could kind of take us through that mission and that story.
Yeah, and Tom, as you said, like Teams is well known in the workplace collaboration sort of experience. We have like a full product suite with chat and collab and meeting workspace. But the interesting thing is, collaboration. We think of collaboration beyond those sort of typical workloads. We think of collaboration in a much more broader sense. So when you think about enterprise or a medium to small business, there's a need for employee communication and the need for leaders to connect with their employees on a frequent basis at all different levels. And the same also holds true for departmental and organizational leads, where a marketing or sales department need to connect with their external customers. And, so we think of communication and collaboration in a much more broader sense. So, and we have heard from our customers that, they would like to use the familiar interface of Teams for all of these extended collaboration needs. So, and that's why I think we as Microsoft and Teams are investing very heavily in this space to make sure we are able to meet these customer needs across this broad spectrum of communication needs.
Awesome. And so from a product perspective, that falls into kind of the webinar type scenarios, which is like a essentially controlled meeting experience, and then town hall, which is your much bigger thousands up to I think it's 20,000 now, isn't it? Or maybe it's more, you can correct me, like attendees to a big broadcast type event. Yeah,
and it's very interesting because when you think about we'll speak a little bit about internal and external use cases. When you think about internal use cases, especially with hybrid, there is a need for employee connections and communication at all levels. So you can think about employee resource group events where you're trying to bring a community together, to build community and collaboration, or to a leadership level communication where you can think about AMAs and all hands, to larger corporate style events where you're trying to talk about your fiscal year 25 strategy, or about a significant milestone the company is achieving. So when we think about events, we think about this broad breadth of use cases, and typically these are what we call as a lot more structured, where there is a set of presenters who are delivering content to attendees. There could be engagement like two-way communication, or it's more one-way communication. So we think about this broad spectrum of use cases for internal use cases, and for external, it's very similar, but the use cases more span around like training sort of scenarios. We have several customers who use Teams for like external training scenarios, and also more of these sales and product launch, those sort of scenarios that are
Yeah.
that tend to be also much larger in scale. But those are the varied sort of internal and external use cases that Teams events is targeting.
Awesome. Let's dig into that internal one first. So I think it's interesting the scale of different companies. So I've worked with various enterprise customers, but they can say an all hands and they can mean like 3,000 people. Like it's like the Europe region all hands. It can be scenarios like that, I guess, can't it?
No, totally. And that's where I think we when we think about our offering, we have a full suite of offering here where you can use your familiar Teams meeting, for doing like more of a fully interactive. We see a lot of leaders who want to do a lot more, closed interactive sort of AMAs. So that's where you have more of the Teams meeting sort of offering, where you can still have a much more structured sort of experience, but have a much more intimate AMA where, people can, turn on their videos. Employees can turn on their videos, ask questions. So you can have a lot more of an intimate sort of AMA to kind of like a broader AMA where you have a larger set of employees, like 3,000, where you want to do an AMA. In that case, the delivery of it becomes more of a one-to-many sort of delivery. And that's where the Teams Town Hall, which is also built on top of Teams Meeting, it just gives you a lot more control to have like more of a one-to-many experience. So Teams as such offers both of these depending on, the style of event you want to deliver. You can use a much more collaborative style of delivery with Teams Town Hall, a Teams meeting, or go in for a much more one-to-many sort of delivery with the Teams Town Hall sort of experience.
I don't know if you can talk about customer examples, probably not names, or maybe how you guys use it internally as well to give us some context as to where that gets used.
Yeah, for sure. I think we have a top pharma who has completely migrated over from a competitive platform over to Teams for all their use cases for both internal and external use cases. And the interesting thing is they're using it across this broad breadth of scenarios I spoke about, for internal, for more of this intimate AMA style events, to larger corporate style events. Specifically for larger corporate style events, Teams also offers a lot of production and broadcast capabilities. For audience who are not familiar, we have capabilities such as NDI, which allows you to isolate audio and video streams, compose it using an external software, and feed it back into Teams. So that gives a lot of these larger enterprise who want to have a lot more polished, highly produced experiences, a lot more control as well. Or if they want to just produce it within Teams, they also have that ability. So that flexibility is what a lot of these large enterprise customers love about Teams, and the fact that they can use it across this varied breadth of scenarios. So as I said, like this large pharma just moved over to Teams, and they're using it across this full breadth of scenarios. And I can also dive a little bit into how Microsoft uses this. Microsoft uses it.
I'd love to hear that. Yeah, so tell us about the internal stuff. That's really interesting.
Yeah, so it's pretty exciting. Like like when COVID hit, everything was virtual, and now we are kind of moving into more of this steady state where things are becoming hybrid and hybrid sort of experiences. So what we're seeing right now in Microsoft is a combination of Teams Room and Teams Events kind of being very heavily used in all of our event scenarios. So I'll take an example of our organization. Jeff, who's our leader, he hosts a set of AMAs and employee events throughout the course to kind of bring employees together, build connections. And he is typically using a combination of Teams Room and Teams Event for those sort of scenarios. So a typical, give you an example of a Jeff AMA would be a hybrid event where Jeff is in within the Teams MPR or conference room, and leveraging some set of events capabilities like green room so that he can set up and get ready before starting the event. So that really gives them the flexibility to wait for the audience to come before starting to, start the event. So that's something which is becoming very much common use case that we see in Microsoft, that I think like a lot of our customers can also start using it. And I think there is also a need there. And then when you kind of go more into more of these large corporate comm sort of events. So when we talk about Satya, so Satya does his employee town hall like every month, and that's all using Teams event platform. So one of the interesting things that people might not be familiar with is Viva Engage platform integrates with Teams. So Satya has a leadership channel, communication channel within Viva Engage, and he uses that community, the Microsoft community, to host his town hall. So all of this experience is embedded within Viva Engage. So
right, so the experience is actually you're in Viva Engage and it's going live in Viva Engage, and under the covers or behind the scenes, it's actually the events platform.
Yes, is the events platform. So that kind of helps really build the combination of Viva Engage plus Teams events, helps kind of foster that community that a lot of these leaders would like to use, send messages, and continue to establish the communication with their employees. So it's a very powerful experience for leaders to be able to tell their story, and and I think events have evolved beyond being a point in time communication to a life cycle, and that's where like tools like Viva Engage plus Teams events become super powerful for employee connection.
Yeah, it's awesome to see that being brought to a platform that's in-house as well, because historically that would have been, we bring in this external production crew and it's a big thing, and it's some proprietary browser platform and they have to go to this link and this thing. That used to be how it was. It's not. The ability now, particularly at the regional level, for like a regional leader to just do this off their own back with their immediate team without bringing in an external kind of production team. And then you mentioned NDI briefly, but that I think is really good to talk about, which is, this is not just the leader has to be at a laptop. You can have the fancy cameras, the mixing board, the multi-channels. You can do all your external mixing and still pump that into the experience.
No, that's absolutely right, Tom. I think you hit a very interesting point, because when you think about these employee, for these sort of events, it's a broad spectrum, right? Where you have like a Satya level leader, where you have the studio team who's going to do a fully professional, hands-on experience where tools like NDI and all kind of becomes really useful, to someone like, as you like organizational sort of leader who may not have all that capabilities, or a studio team. But, our vision is to be able to kind of democratize this production so that, an organizational leader could also choose to do a much more professional event. So we have a lot of capabilities built into Teams event, and we are adding a lot more, where you can really, control the type of experience that goes out live. You can really choose who the presenters are that you want to bring on stage. They're also going to add capabilities around, branding and layouts and so I think that experience is going to continue to improve and make it easier and seamless for anybody to be able to do these sort of professional events.
And are there investments you're seeing in terms of where you put product investment that are benefiting both webinar and town hall, things like green room, being able to control the Q&A? Like, I'm guessing some features benefit both of those.
Yes, that's correct, because when you think about the way we are thinking about our strategies, all of this is available across in Teams. So it doesn't matter you're doing a webinar or a town hall. There's going to be a core set of capabilities that is going to be accessible to both of these experiences. Obviously, webinar is a lot more specific workloads and workflows around, registration, managing attendee registration, and then integrating with marketing automation software. So those are some additional workflows that we enable on top of it. But there's a set of core capabilities that is available across, meetings and webinars, or, these large corporate style town halls.
And there's been a bunch of investment in webinar over the last, certainly the last 6 months I've seen, where, and particularly with, as part of Teams Premium, you can kind of have extra features on webinar where, like you say, you've got the CRM integration, you've got the green room, you've got registration control. I'm guessing that's all been customer demand for, we love Teams, we'd love to use Teams, we want one single experience, but you can't do this thing, you can't do this. Is that, I'm guessing that's quite a demanding, because you're working with marketing teams, they've all got ways of working and they want to control the experience. Is that accurate? Is there lots of kind of a feature investment there?
Actually, it's been pretty exciting because when you talk to our customers, a lot of our customers, they want to move over to Teams. They want to kind of consolidate their communication needs on one platform because, like it's beneficial at all levels. From an IT admin perspective, they have one system to manage security, all of that is becoming much more important. So they have one system to manage.
Yeah.
From an end user perspective, it's like, hey, I use Teams day in and day out. I'm familiar with the experience of Teams.
And the end user one is huge for me. That's like, we're trying to get our, important person to do the external facing webinar or the internal town hall, whatever it may be. They're not a natural IT person or natural presenter. Them knowing they're coming in and clicking the same button and doing the same thing just puts them at ease versus, oh, you have to do this thing and where's the mute in this scenario and how does this work? I think that's so underrated as an experience benefit for the user, that they're not, because it can already be stressful doing that kind of event. So you're layering on top, this is a completely different platform. That's really tough for them.
No, that's totally right, Tom. And I think that's where, like your Team's experience is already optimized for you for a lot of these scenarios. So, and the familiarity and everything, the high stress situation, using a familiar tools goes a long way.
Yeah.
And so that's where I think customers are super excited and interested, and and obviously we have gaps in our offering today, and that's where we see customer ask like, hey, we need this XYZ. So we are really prioritizing all of these customer asks and trying to accelerate and build all of these capabilities. So as you said rightfully, in the last 6 months, we have built in a lot more capabilities across the board, across webinars and town halls, but specifically on webinars. Pretty excited that we now have a robust set of APIs now available, because we know specifically for webinars, integration with marketing automation is super critical and important. So we just launched an integration with HubSpot and Zapier, which is available out of the box. Plus, we have launched a robust set of APIs. So, we do hear customer ask around, building custom integrations with their marketing automation software. So that full set of robust APIs are available for customers to use. So teams can now interoperate with any third-party marketing automation and learning management system. So we are starting to see a lot of customers also build custom integrations on top of Teams for a lot of their use cases. So which is pretty exciting to have that, robust offering in market. Having said that, we still have work to do. So we'll be, there's a lot the customer ask around scaling webinars to, beyond 1,000 and, having support for recurring webinars. So we do see a lot of customers already starting to shift their workloads over for webinars, and kind of there is a set of asks for them to fully shift their workloads over. So we are pretty excited about the momentum we're seeing here, and we're hoping to kind of close all the gaps so customers can fully use the full breadth of offering that Teams has.
That's awesome. Can you give us a bit of as much as you can, a bit of a perspective about where your thinking is for the next investments, for what your priority areas are? Any thoughts there?
Yes, Tom. I think our number one priority is to close a lot of the customer asks that we are having right now for Teams to kind of be able to scale across this full breadth of scenarios. So we have a very robust roadmap that we are kind of prioritizing and working towards. But in addition, obviously, with the advent of AI, there is a lot more, we can do here in this space with events. And when you think about AI and how events, there's a lot more opportunities that I think Microsoft is uniquely positioned to be successful in this space. So, as you think about creating an event, which itself is a complex task or setup, and making sure everything is correctly hosted. So you can see how AI can really simplify those workloads in terms of creating assets and descriptions.
Yeah, particularly webinar, it's a high pressure for a marketing team. They might not do it every day. So like knowing what the options are, how it works, that's a really interesting scenario, having someone or an AI help you along that. I'm trying to do this. I want the lobby off, and I want this and I want that. Like, that's really interesting.
Yeah, and that's a very interesting use case we hear, because people don't know what's the right set of things I need to set up very often. Like so leveraging AI, I think will be super interesting. Also, we talked briefly about production, which is also another high stress production, and moderating the event, which is again a high stress situation. So really, as a moderator, trying to keep track of the agenda, and ensuring you're gathering questions, redirecting questions to the right folks. So there's a lot of value that we think AI can really help to simplify the moderator and as well as the producer role on making sure the lighting is good, making sure the right people are on and off stage. There's a lot more of that. So we're pretty excited. I think an opportunity there for AI. And then lastly, after the event is over, recap and summarization, the highlights. So there's a lot that goes in there as well, which is all manual. So we think AI can really simplify those sort of workloads as well.
Yeah, I think just recently, I think it's now GA, the ability to have the recording turn up at the same link as the event. You can see how potentially in the future that could be a really nice presented summary with takeaways, with chat. Like the thing we get internally with Intelligent Meeting Recap, you could see how that could apply external. And then you're taking all that production effort off of people who want to just leverage the AI to do it. It's really exciting.
Yeah. So it's pretty exciting. So I think like for us, like kind of closing the gaps and then kind of really simplifying and making these, taking the pressure off, right, and making it really seamless for our event host. I think that's kind of where we are marching towards, and we're excited about that roadmap, robust roadmap.
Yeah, it's a nice. I think it's obviously AI is the big talk at the moment across all different workloads, but you get to leverage that investment Microsoft are making in all sorts of ways. And I feel like meetings and events, certainly in meetings, it's been a huge hit. The potential in events is really exciting as well.
Yeah, and the exciting part of it is all our offering is built on top of Teams meeting, so we are able to kind of leverage all the assets and investments that Teams meeting is leveraging, and we'll be able to kind of accelerate on some of those even for our event offering. So pretty excited about that.
Awesome. Well, Preethi, thanks for jumping on the pod. It was really great to get a perspective on kind of what happens in those meetings and town hall events, workloads and webinar. Really good stuff. And maybe we can. I know you've got plans to ship various features in the coming months. Maybe we loop round again and do a bit of a recap at some point.
We'd love to, Tom, and really great to have this conversation and chat. Excited about the future of events, Teams events.
Awesome. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.